We've got a stack of bizarre and interesting and weird questions, and I'm so interested to hear your take on it. Uh, First, let me ask you: are sex injuries common in your industry?
So, kind of, I want to say.
Yeah,
I do know that, for people who do anal, pretty common to get some tears. That happens fairly regularly.
on
Uh,
film, on set, as in life.
yeah, exactly. Especially since, performers who are just really great at it, they do it all the time. And so that's gonna happen. And even the vagina can tear too.
Hmm.
I remember when they're talking about, forcing and making a law in California that all porn performers must always wear condoms. One of the big things against that was that the amount of time that uh, especially penis and ass sex happens, it's lengthy. And the condom, you try to keep lube as much as you can, but it'll suck it up, and then you just keep going and going, and that can cause tears
Mm.
as well. And so people were just like, don't tell us how to do our jobs. If
You're
you're
making it less safe rather
you're
than more
making it
safe.
less safe, yes.
Yeah.
You don't understand because you're just looking at it from this tower palace of not really knowing how these things work. And so that was a big thing. And it's just the friction, it can cause some tears and stuff like that. But I would say that, those would be the main sort of like sex injuries
Sure.
that you would hear of. I'll get like a little tender sore when I use a strap on. That, a couple days I'll have a little sort of tenderness on my pubis mons area.
Yeah, so it's
Small.
not the same as lumberjacking, but,
Not
there is some danger to the job.
a little,
Sure.
a reasonable amount.
Yeah, well, on that note, is it common to experience pain during the job? How's that handled? I mean, is this a workers' comp industry?
So, absolutely not, and not a workers' comp industry. Nope, no way. Everyone is really, we're all treated as independent contractors, sort of a thing. We work for ourselves and we contract out to another company, and then they pay us for our time and our performance, and that's pretty much where it ends. You know, you should be paying, if you're in this industry, you should hopefully be paying your taxes. Hopefully you might have a payroll service that helps you out, because then you're putting money into a disability account that you can hopefully access if you need to. But for me, like I had a traumatic brain injury in 2009. I um, wasn't paying into an account like that, and
Mhm.
so uh, I relied on some donations and some savings and stuff to get through that time period. But uh, no, there's nothing there. If you break your arm, you might try camming. Like you just you just
Yeah,
gotta still find a way to like pull the income in. Hopefully you can make a savings account and have something there in case something really big does happen. Or hopefully you can get a little bit of credit, so you might be able to use credit cards or something. But yeah, there's just no, as an industry, there's no union, there's none
yeah,
of.
I mean, that 1099 element is, I mean, that's an episode all unto itself, but I mean, that's
Oh
a
yeah.
big issue here.
Yeah. Yeah, so we don't have access to any of that kind of stuff really. So, but I'd say we get sick a normal amount, and you just kind of got to take a week off, and you get injured a normal amount, and you just hopefully have something there to help you through, or generous fans and to help, stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, a number of questions asked about jobs on set. I'm curious on some of the bigger productions. Do folks in the porn industry utilize a intimacy coordinator?
I'm gonna say no because I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Increasingly on film sets, when there is choreography around sex, a humpyographer, they'll have a
Oh,
intimacy coordinator who will kind of be there as a support for the performers to make sure that everything is consensual and safe and everything else.
oh, that's
Not
great.
not a big part of the porn industry, yeah.
Oh, not at all. But what I would say, what an awesome job to have. I would
Sure,
love to
right?
do that. If anybody on
Sex
Hollywood
choreography.
needs that, I could help. Um, but what's kind of cool is that we do that for ourselves. We advocate for ourselves. And we've had little, you know, talks about organizing and talks about maybe volunteers or doing it for like a low rate for newer performers to have someone on set who is just kind of like making sure everyone's okay and blah 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 like that kind of
Advocate.
but then I think about, production assistants kind of help with some of that stuff too. And but ultimately, yeah, it really is us. I mean, it really is on us. And so I do feel like things are getting better with all that too. I know that every time I sit down and before I start a scene with another performer, either I ask or they ask first. So, what are your do's and don'ts? We sit down, we have a conversation about the things we like, the things we love, the things we do not like, the things we absolutely will not be okay with. Um, and we have that little conversation before we start. And then when it comes to the choreography aspect of it too, I know that a lot of people think that I don't know, maybe they think there's a director standing off to the side and they're like telling us what to do or something.
I feel like that's how it's always depicted on TV shows, that the director is
Yeah.
right there, that apparently everything is mic'd in such a way that they can just talk directly to the performer and shout instructions at them and it won't get picked up.
And like
That
cut it out of the final product or something.
Yeah, that's how it always shows up on TV.
Yes. TV doesn't know what's going on.
It's
Um,
always some white dude with a backwards baseball cap and like a very short beard.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not like that. And I will say, you know, we'll get a script and there might be, it depends. So, gosh, all of this, of course, depends on the project, depends on
Sure.
what you're doing and who's shooting it and all that stuff. But, if there are things that need to happen, then we're told that beforehand. If we're meant to stay in character from the sort of lead up that we've been doing, then we're told that beforehand. I've been on sets sometimes where maybe the director's working with somebody sort of newer, so they might shout in and cut that part out. But it's so rare. But again, like I've been doing this for so long that I'm trying to remember back in the day. Was it different? Um, but 9 times out of 10, it's very much like once you get the lines done, then they've got either one camera guy or maybe two or three, and their job is to really like follow the action around.
Mhm.
And then our job as performers is to sort of do what we want to do, um, and make it look good. And again, have that sixth sense awareness of where the cameras are and sort of like open out to the cameras and make sure that the cameras are seeing what's important to see. And but it's very much a little dance with camera operators and performers. And oftentimes the director's job is less about micromanaging the sex part and more about all the other little details, maybe like the lighting
Mhm.
and the sound and um, all that sort of thing. So I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I totally forgot.
Uh, this is one of my favorite. I don't want to say myths necessarily, but rumors about porn sites or porn sets.
Mm.
The question is: are people reliant on Viagra to maintain stamina, and or is fluffer a real job that actually exists?
The fluffer thing, I have no idea where that came from. I think just it's so economically. nonsense, right?
Right.
Like, why, why would you pay a person to do a job? It just doesn't make any sense. So let's see. Definitely no fluffers. But Viagra, yeah. So, not every performer needs Viagra, but I think that after a certain amount of time in this industry, um, a man is going to start needing something.
Mm,
And I don't care how young they are, I don't care how vibrant and virulent they are. After doing this enough, you're going to need to. That from what I've experienced and the friends that I've known, and what I've seen, and it's just at some point it's not going to be stimulating enough on its own because you
sure.
do it all the time for work. So, and I mean, like, that's one. So, my partner and I, in our personal life, we're monogamish. Like, we like to play with other people as long as we're together. But and it's the same thing kind of in our work life. We bring in a girl, we shoot a threesome or maybe a foursome, some group stuff, whatever the case may be. And it's all fun and great. And it happens rarely enough to where it's still fun and exciting, and that sort of thing isn't needed. I've, considered, so my partner's really great. He's a really awesome performer, at least when we're talking I mean, obviously I love him, so I think he's great at
Sure.
everything. But even if we're just talking about technically when it comes to making porn, he's so spot on. It's awesome. But the idea of sending him out into the porn world and being just like, "Hey, you go and do a scene for someone else and bring them a paycheck," or whatever the case may be, I'm super hesitant and reticent against doing that because I know what that will mean eventually,
Sure.
and uh, I don't want that. Call me selfish. Um, but yeah, and the thing too about a friend of mine, he's now retired, but he's an author, and he wrote an amazing memoir called Body to Job. Chris Zysheg is his real name, his author name, but he used to go by Danny Wild. And he tells that story of him starting in the industry and everything worked great. And he used to, and that first time that you fail at a scene is what we call it,
Mhm.
failing. Um, that's, you know, that's the beginning. That's how it begins. And everyone on set is irritated and pissed off. Everyone's time is wasted. The girl is like, what the fuck, and so when you have this entire production like hinging on your boner.
Yeah. As a sex therapist, I'm terrified for these performers. I mean, that
Yeah.
is such a incredible challenge.
Oh my gosh, and it's huge. And so he started I think maybe with pills, but at one point he transitioned over to the injections, and he got preopsism like 3 or 4 times and had to
Mm.
go to the doctor, and they have to like stick a needle in your boner and like suck all this blood out. And I guess it was the last time the doctor was looking at him, and he's like, if you don't stop doing this, your dick is going to not work ever again. And he retired from the industry. And now he's like super successful. He's an amazing author. I love that book, Body to Job. Find it on Amazon or wherever you get your books from and read it. It's super fascinating. And he's got this aesthetic that I just love. But that is something that just, a lot of guys are like, oh man, how do I get in the industry? It must be so cool just banging chicks all the time. It's like, bro, that's not what the job is. Like,
It's about
one
90% can
small
you
part.
show up with an erection?
Fuck, dude. You have to get it hard when they want you to get it hard. It's gonna go down because it's gonna go down, and then you got to get it up again. It's gonna go down. You got to get it up again because of the breaks and stuff in between.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't stop there because then they're like, okay, we've got enough of all these positions or whatever. So ready when you are, and now you have to come. and there's a girl and she's sitting there looking up at you, and you know she's like, I'm done with this now, so can we move
We don't
on?
go
And
home.
you got to make it fit. You have to make it happen. You have to. And
Yikes.
dude, that's not something every guy can do. And yeah, so it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot.
Yeah, for all of the things that we've said about the fantasy of porn and how
Right.
porn is it's a product. It's
Right.
not everyday life. It's edited. In the
Right.
same way that you are never as charming in real life as you are when you have a screenwriter and an editor and everything else.
Yeah.
The But for all the things that we talk about, how pornography sets poor expectations and the lack of diversity can be problematic, certainly doesn't need to be depending on what you're watching. But I
Yeah.
feel like this is maybe the most persistent and important and significant myth that people attach themselves to, that all sex requires a penis, that it requires a hard and erect penis, and
Yeah.
that you can't even bother to film anything or have sex if there isn't a erection that's ready to come on command.
Right.
And that is just an expectation that there are way too many men walking around with, that is not serving anybody and is so
Yeah.
getting in the way of so much great sex and so many wonderful opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like that too with women's ability to orgasm. I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of people feel like if she didn't come, like I did something wrong. And I mean, that's so nuanced, right? Because
Sure.
yes, like please try to make women come for fuck's. But, sometimes it's okay too. Like a lot of times we know our bodies, we know when we'll be able to and when we're just not going to be able to, and under what
Mhm.
circumstances and all this stuff. And sometimes, I hope that the goal is always there to give pleasure to your partner, but sometimes that expectation can make it even worse inside the
Yeah.
mind of a woman. There's so much going on in here,
You
and
gotta
it's
believe in it, sure.
yeah, and if it's like, "Oh my gosh, like, I want to come for them," but maybe I can't or I won't, and I just wanna say as a woman, and I've spoken with a lot of women, and I know a lot of people feel this way too, like, I can have a really satisfying sexual experience without necessarily having an orgasm. So we don't need that kind of pressure put on us either. Um, and I make porn where there's lots of orgasms, lots of female orgasms happening, and I'm just gonna let you know that 100% of them are not always real. Okay, sorry to
That was my very next question, submitted by one of our viewers. Are the orgasms fake?
yeah, and that being said, like, it's just that they happen. Sometimes they happen, and sometimes
Yeah.
they don't. And like that's like life, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as in life, and
Yeah,
that's not a problem. You can have an incredible
yeah,
experience. This idea that
of course.
sexuality requires an erection, that it requires an orgasm, is
Yeah,
just silliness and so arbitrary and wasteful,
yeah,
really.
yeah. And I think, and again, it's like as long as the goal is to pleasure each other, like then I think you're doing all the right things.
Yeah.
And if you're communicating, and if you're like, oh, if you just move to the right a little bit, I could come. Just say those things. It'd be great. But it's also like if I've had a couple of drinks, or if we're outside somewhere doing a quickie or something, and we're standing up, like it's not gonna happen. It doesn't mean I'm not having fun. It doesn't mean it's not totally awesome for me. It's just like not gonna happen. But um, it's kind of weird to like be a part of perpetuating something that I think is also problematic. But
Sure.
porn is a visual medium. Like that, it's about those orgasms, and um, we're making this thing that is sort of just like you got to have them in the in the videos.
Yeah, I mean, we don't feel that way about a stage kiss, right? Like, we don't
Right, right.
expect people in a community theater to actually be in love.
Tonguing down and
Yeah, so we can recognize that
yes,
this is art, this is fiction.
fiction, yes.
Sure.
And so, but fucking real orgasms happen all the time too, all the time. Please know that.